Hey guys, Ben Painting. Today we're back once again for another video, and this time we are up at Teamsport Leicester for our first little bit of BIKC 2023 regional practice. Now this is a track I've never done before, so I was having to get up to grips with this as quickly as I could, and honestly I don't think I did the best of jobs, as you will see throughout the rest of this video. Now what you are watching here is the second session of 3. We went up and did a Monday night social, myself and Harley Smith, so we're just going to let the footage roll out and going to see what you guys think of some of the lines I take, because quite frankly I don't think they were good enough if I'm brutally honest. So before we jump into the rest of the footage, if you do enjoy this video, can you please leave a like on it down below, as it really does help me out. And if you're new to the channel, or if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as we have so many videos coming very soon. I've got coming soon, I might be heading around to Leicester again in the near future. We've got Lid coming up for the Club 73 weekend series, and we also have Brighton Q Leisure for SRK, which apparently I'm forgetting the names of everything as well. But jumping back into the footage, you can see our first lap was a 45.612, and this was obviously due to the yellow flags that were out in front of us. Now this is a track that I really did enjoy. I had a lot of fun when I came here. Obviously this is only my second 15-minute session coming into it, and you can see straight away we're trying to make some diabolical moves up the inside on some of the other drivers. Unfortunately we completely overcooked it there on that occasion, but I believe the driver that we tried to make the move on before slamming into the people up ahead did in fact let us through, and understood that we were a little bit quicker than them. So my goal in this one was to try and get a low 37-second lap time, and maybe even a 36-second lap time, looking at some of the times through the BIKC app at people in the middleweight category. So I want to try and be as close to that as I could be, just to give myself as best a chance as I can when it comes to the regional final, which at the time of recording is coming very soon. Now you can see in our first couple of laps, obviously a little bit of an incident there on the second lap has led us to have a 38.960 second lap time, and now we're just trying to catch up to the guys up ahead and sort of prove to ourselves that we are one of the quicker drivers on track. Now in the first session we were 2/10 off Harley Smith, who has come to the track before last year. Obviously he did the regional here from Bristol up to Leicester last year, so he had a little bit more experience than me, and we were only 2/10 off him in the first session, and we actually finished first and second. So I wanted to try and carry this momentum on. I knew that Harley was going to have some solid pace, and I wanted to see how close I could get to him from not going to the track at all and just being thrown in at the deep end. And you can see straight away our lap times are coming down into the 37-second mark, which is where we want to be, with a 37.703 second lap time. However, you can see that I am actually turning the steering wheel far too much through the corners. You can see each of the sections of the track I'm not using a very smooth sort of momentum like I usually use. Instead I'm sort of launching the wheel in a little bit too heavy, and this is due to the fact that if you've watched my previous video, which was at Herefordshire Raceway, I came into this session the day after, where I think it was just a little bit of muscle memory at that point, just to try and steer the wheel in as hard as I can, due to being in the rain and also being on a track which is known for its understeer. So unfortunately I believe I hampered myself in this session just because of the fact that I was just steering the wheel a little bit too much. And this is a track where your momentum through each of the sections, much like most other tracks, but this track in particular, you have to keep the momentum of the car as high as possible, because you come from moments on the track, especially down past here, which is all pretty much flat out, into the first corner where you go into a heavy braking zone and then you get back on the throttle once again. The same with the second hairpin here, you get on the brake and then you're pretty much full throttle. You can see how much time I'm losing to the drivers up ahead, just due to putting in too much steering angle, and it's just causing me to lose a lot of my momentum through the corners. So this is one thing I have realised that I will be taking this into consideration the next time that I go up to the track, which I'm hoping will be soon, but I am very busy at the moment. However, we will see when I'm able to release some more footage from there. But in the meantime, we're catching up to the driver ahead of us here, and we have come across the line with 37.719, and we send a very nice move up the inside into the first corner to sort of gain track position there. Obviously this isn't a race, it's just a time session, so we've gained some track position there, giving us a little bit more free air to try and work around what lines work the best and where I can gain time on the driver up ahead of me that has now sort of pulled a little bit of a gap. And I was really enjoying this track just due to the fact that there was a lot of grip, and I wasn't really having to regulate each of the throttle and brake pedals as much as I do at Bristol, where I feel that the skill level required is quite high, just because of the fact that the grip differs from being really grippy on the top section with the sort of wood base, and then going downstairs it's just really slidey, so you have to sort of switch up your driving style throughout the whole of the track. Whereas here I noticed that even despite having the wood and sort of the concrete, the track felt very grippy throughout, and it was really enjoyable to drive around, although it did put a little bit of a strain on the arms. Obviously you are at high intensity throughout the whole of the session, but it was really enjoyable just to get our heads down and try and put in the best laps that we could. And we come across the line on that lap with one of our fastest laps of the session, a 37.537, and we then get waved through by the driver up ahead, so sort of giving ourselves a lot of clean air now to just really get our head down and put in the best lap that we can, which is something that I was really happy to do, just because I felt that with people up ahead of me, if I caught up to them and they wouldn't really let me past, then there would just be a bit of getting stuck, wasting time in the session. So again, we're just trying to change up our lines here and there. We're trying to use different sort of entries and exits through each of the corners. We're trying to find which part of the track is the fastest. You can see it being very consistent at 37.595, and we're trying to carry as much momentum through each of the corners as we can. Now we're braking on sort of the strips on the left hand side, and what I found quite bizarre here, I don't know if you'll be able to hear it in the video, but as we came on the exit out of that corner, the whole car engine just stopped. And the thing I found quite weird in this session with this car is the sort of accelerator was almost like an on and off switch. It got to about halfway and nothing happened, and suddenly it would like crunch, and then it would start working from that small 25 percentile range that was left. And the same with the brake, it would just, if you pressed it too hard, it would just sort of get stuck to the floor. And this is not really something that I was too confident about, especially as this was 5 days after the local final, and also just because there's a regional final coming up very soon. So this disheartened me a little bit, because I felt that this car was just a little bit off where it should have been, unfortunately, but I was still trying to do the best that I could in it, and obviously I did, because I did the fastest time of the night for myself in this car, and I believe that this was done on this lap where we come through with a 37.503, which was in fact my fastest lap of the evening. I was unable to beat that again, obviously due to just not being as quick, and I've just got to say that was a really nice move down the inside, managing to take the sort of place on the track from two drivers up ahead. A really sort of ambitious move, but I made it work. And for the rest of this session here, I found that I was just sort of driving around, wasn't too much going on, so I was just trying to put in and be as consistent as I could be. Obviously it's all well and good having some solid pace over one lap, but obviously it's increasingly important in a race situation to be consistently fast. So I was just trying to work here on trying to stay as close to each of the apex as I could, minimising the track distance, focusing on where my braking points were, and just trying to get times that were as similar to each other as I could, or as close to my fastest laps as I could. Obviously, as I've mentioned in previous videos before, there's no way of telling how fast you are until you come off the track. So it's more just a case of sort of understanding where you feel you're faster, which isn't always the case to be faster, but it's finding where you feel you're faster and sort of replicating it throughout the rest of the laps you do. So you can see we come across the line there, 37.689, and we're just getting on the brakes and trying to get as close to that first hairpin as we can, trying to stay tight to the second apex. Again, on sort of the rumble strips on the left hand side, or the curbing on the left hand side, hitting the brakes there and trying to get the car rotated before the corner. And again, we're doing the same thing on this corner, hitting the brakes on sort of the curbing area on the right hand side before turning the car in to the left to get the power down as early as we can. We don't go out as wide as we could do there on the sort of top right hander there, and instead coming down the ramp, we're just trying to stay as tight to both apexes as we can to really minimise the track distance, and that means that we come across the line once again only 1/10 off our last lap and 2/10 off our fastest lap of the session with a 37.748. Again, we're just making a few mistakes here. You can see me hitting some of the barriers. That's causing me to obviously lose momentum, and therefore I'm not really catching up to the two drivers that are up ahead of me that I was sort of using as a reference just to see how fast I was getting around the track. But again, this time using a little bit more of the track on the left hand side, but not getting quite close enough to the apex on the right hand side. So bits of brilliance here and there, but we're still not getting sort of the right line down that we need. But we are being consistent, that's the main thing. Again, within a 10th, 37.710, and we've really caught up to the two guys ahead at this point. We're having a little bit of a battle with one another, which is always great to see. But you can see here through the last couple of corners we've really managed to reel them in, so I'm just trying to hold my momentum as much as I can through sort of the bank corner, which doesn't quite capture on the camera, and instead I thought I'd go for a little bit of a lunge down the inside here, but it didn't quite pay off. I apologise, it was a pretty big shunt to the driver up ahead of me, and as you can see, just from doing that I've lost a whole heap of time, and now I've lost sort of the track space I had available to me. So we've come back down again at 39.950. As I said, I apologise to the driver after the session. It was a bit of an audacious move and it wasn't a good one. So you can see there, the driver who I've gone into has let the two drivers behind that I sort of have overtaken already in this session one or two times. They've let them through, and now I was just going to try and make the move on them again if I could. I wasn't going to let the fact that I went into them deter me from trying to get past. You can see they're going quite wayward here through the last section of the track. This allowed me to really catch on to their rear bumper. They go really wide through the last corner, and that allows me to go side by side with them through the first corner, coming into the first hairpin on the lap, which obviously has led to me having a little bit of a slower time because I had to take a narrower line, and that obviously ruined my momentum coming out of the corner. But we did come across the line with 38.308 on the last lap, and this lap was obviously going to be a little bit slower again. However, by having these guys up ahead of me again, as I've mentioned so many times in previous videos, that they were almost a visual marker or a reference for me to catch up. I knew if I was faster than them, if I was catching up with them, then I would be faster than them, and obviously this would mean that I was on for some pretty decent times. I think these were some of the guys that were finishing second and third in the session, so if I could catch up to them, then I'd be on for some pretty solid times here coming towards the end of the session. So we're coming through again, trying to get as close as we can and hold as much momentum through the second hairpin as we can, staying tight to the two apexes under the bridge. And again, I think I'm just using a little bit too much steering angle, as I mentioned, sort of killing off my momentum coming around the bank corner. The driver ahead of us lets off and lets me go through, and again was not getting quite close enough to the apexes there on the right hand side, and it's just losing us crucial tenths that we need to get a really solid lap time in. So we come across the line on this lap with a 37.786 once again, and once more we are up behind another driver, and obviously trying to make a move on another driver is only going to cost us time in terms of overall lap time. You can see how much more of a better exit I've got on them coming under the bridge, and we're going side by side into the bank corner. So I think we're going to send a big move up the inside through the bank corner as we come out from under the bridge and we make the move stick, which I was really happy about. If I wasn't quite the fastest on the night, I was quite happy that some of the moves I was pulling off were reasonably clean, and also I was able to just do it in quite a safe manner where I wasn't losing too much time. However, this does in fact lead us to the last lap of the session, and you can see immediately already we've gone in a little bit too hot, and that's just caused me to lose a lot of time going through the first corner, having to counter steer. And again, we're just trying to not move out too much, but give ourselves enough space where we can get around both of the apexes under the bridge without clipping the apex. And again, we've taken the sort of bank corner a little bit too happy or too playful with the wheel, and that's just killing all our momentum coming through that corner, which is something I'm definitely going to work on going into the track next time I go up. But we do come across the line finally with a 37.594, which was quite close to our fastest lap of the session, but it still, in my opinion, wasn't fast enough to be keeping up with some of the faster guys on the night, or even fast enough to be up with Harley, who I believe got a 37 dead at some point in this session or the last session. So however, this does in fact bring us to the end of the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. It's short but sweet. If you have, can you please leave a like on it down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, or if you're new, as I really do appreciate it. As always, my Instagram and TikTok are linked down below in the description. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.